Lux is a virtual reality game in which the player plays as a space captain that has crash-landed on a foreign alien planet. They meet a friendly alien character that acts as a sidekick for them to complete a series of levels to make it back to their crashed spaceship. The player first emerges from their escape pod in the first level, where they build trust with the friend character by feeding them apples. This then leads the player to the second level, in which the friend character gives the player orbs, which they then use to throw at some jellyfish to unlock the way to the third level. In the third level, the player encounters their spaceship, which is tangled up in large alien vines. The friend then helps the player by getting rid of the vines, unlocking the door to their spaceship. In the final level, the player finds himself back on their spaceship, unable to take off because the friend character is too heavy. They must then pick up an apple and lure friend off of the spaceship by throwing the apple out of the door. They can then take off, leaving friend behind on the alien planet. Our main goal for this project was to use VR to create a meaningful bond between the player and the character in the game. So we started calling our character Friend, simply just because he is the player's friend during the game. We wanted the player to instantly feel that connection and that bond, because without trust they wouldn't be able to solve any of the following puzzles for our game, because it's based off of that interaction. It was hard to find a balance of creating a character that seemed alien and seemed like it came from a different planet, but also keep it cute and friendly. And that was a tough thing to accomplish, because when the player first notices Friend in the game, it can be a little bit intimidating sometimes because it's just a pair of glowing eyes in darkness. But we really wanted that moment when Friend came out of the darkness and the player saw them for the first time, for their first impression to be a positive one. And that really came down to how we made him look and how we made the design of him.
One big thing that we put in the script right at the very beginning was to mention that this planet is inhabited by friendly creatures that can talk to plants. So that gave the player two big hints right from the get-go. First, creatures are friendly, so you shouldn't be scared of them. So it primed them before they even met Friend that he was a friend. And then as well, it gives them the little hint that he can talk to plants, so it helps them to understand what's actually going on throughout the game. We really wanted to bring out Friend's personality with the animation. So we added a lot of little pauses where he had to think about something before actually completing the action. So he looked at the apple for a second before tossing it in his mouth, that sort of thing.
So for Friend, because he's an AI which has to respond to the player interactions, we made a script for him to do all his actions based on the player's actions. For example, when the player picks up an apple, he has to know the location of the apples and then go towards the apple and pick it up.
So guiding players in VR was kind of challenging, and that's mostly because the experience is so novel that they don't actually know what to do. So we would give them some subtle cues, like changing the color of a vine from blue to green to indicate that it was interactive. And we would also sort of exaggerate items in the environment like jellyfish and large plants, and we would color them a different color. I think our standard was like a blue hue throughout the environment, but we would also try to add small pieces of pink items and green items just to get players to understand where they have to go next.
The two primary things that make a VR experience immersive are sound and visuals. So we tried to give everything in the environment their own sound to make the environment more immersive and more believable when people were inside it. We also tried to time sounds perfectly to the objects within the environment. So for example, we would time the bloops of the jellyfish as they floated off into the sky to be perfect when they're pushing off. And that just gives more of a sense of realism to this fantasy world and believability while users are inside of it.
Another notable thing that we had to script was the 3D sound, which is whichever things that players interact with has a sound source. And we made sure that that source is within the reverb zone inside our environment, which made the whole thing sound like a 3D cave.
The music came in right at the very end, when the environment was built, when we had a lot of the sounds figured out, and it was meant to really enforce the emotional impact of the game. So music came in at the beginning, when you first meet Friend and right at the end when you're leaving him behind. So you could say it's kind of a motif for Friend.
We used primarily sound and soundscapes to contextualize the narrative of our game. So for example, in the beginning intro sequence, we have a soundscape of the ship kind of crashing, and that guides the player and lets the player know that, okay, we're not from this planet, you've actually crash landed your ship. And it's kind of like the same thing towards the ending of the game, where we used warnings coming from the actual ship to let the player know that now it's time to leave the planet. Now they have to let go of friends.
Yeah, I think the storytelling is probably the strongest part of this experience. The characters are well designed. Yeah, it's really good.
I thought it was great. It was such a compact, tiny little game, but it had a really big emotional punch to it, so it was awesome.
I'm amazed at how much I wasn't afraid of Friend. Even when he got really close and he was handing me the orbs, I was really kind of attached to him. I was like, he's so cute and large.
I felt sad when I had to wave goodbye to him, and then the door closed. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
Players leave our game feeling a sense of empathy for the Friend character that they had to leave behind, making Lux VR a short but memorable experience.